Once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, there was a boy named Shadow who had fallen in love with Princess Twilight. Shadow was not exactly a Prince Charming. He had made many mistakes in his past that tormented him. Shadow always watched Twilight from afar, with a look full of love and regret. He wondered if she could ever love him, despite everything he had done. Twilight, on the other hand, was a fair and kind princess. Despite her position, she had always been attracted to Sombra, but was afraid of falling in love. Twilight knew about Sombra's dark past, but she also saw the regret in his eyes. Despite her fears, she couldn't help but feel something for him. One day, Shadow gathered his courage and decided to confess his feelings to Twilight. He approached her, his heart beating a mile an hour. "Twilight," he began, "I know I've made a lot of mistakes in the past," but he broke off, unable to find the right words. Twilight smiled at him and interrupted him gently. "Shadow, me too." He was speechless, his cheeks flushed, and he looked down. Shadow was speechless. Could it be that Twilight felt the same way about him? He took her hand and looked into her eyes, searching for an answer. Twilight looked up and looked at Shadow. In her eyes, he saw what he had been looking for. She loved him too. Shadow smiled, for the first time in a long time. It felt like an enormous weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Princess Twilight loved him too. "Twilight," Shadow said, "I promise that I will do everything I can to be worthy of your love. I will do everything I can to right my wrongs." "Shadow," Twilight replied, "we all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them and move on, and I know you can do it." From that day on, Sombra and Twilight became inseparable. They spent every free moment they had together, sharing laughter and secrets. Shadow strove to make amends for his past mistakes. Over time, he managed to gain the respect and trust of the inhabitants of the kingdom. Twilight, for her part, helped Shadow on his path to redemption. Her love for him never wavered, even in the most difficult of times. The love between Shadow and Twilight grew stronger with each passing day. Despite the difficulties, they never let anything get in their way. One day, Shadow decided to ask Twilight to marry him. He knew he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her. Twilight, full of happiness, accepted Shadow's proposal. She knew he was the only one she wanted to spend the rest of her life with. The wedding was a great celebration. The entire kingdom came together to celebrate the love between Shadow and Twilight. It was a day full of happiness and joy. Shadow and Twilight showed that love can overcome any obstacle. Despite his dark past, Shadow managed to find redemption and love in Twilight's arms. Twilight, for her part, showed that love is fearless. Despite his initial fears, he allowed himself to love Shadow and did not regret his decision. Although the road was not easy, Shadow and Twilight never let anything separate them. Their love was stronger than any obstacle they could encounter. Shadow and Twilight lived happily for the rest of their lives. Their love became a legend throughout the kingdom, a reminder that true love can overcome anything. The years passed, but their love never faded. They were always together, supporting each other, sharing laughter and tears. The story of Sombra and Twilight was passed down from generation to generation. It became a story of love, redemption, and improvement. Despite the challenges, Shadow and Twilight proved that love can overcome anything. Her story became a beacon of hope for all who heard it. And so, the story of Sombra and Twilight became a legend, a story of love and redemption that lasted through the years, inspiring generations. The legend of Sombra and Twilight continued to inspire people to believe in love, despite the obstacles. Their story became a symbol of true love and redemption. Although Shadow and Twilight were no longer in this world, their love lived on in the stories that were told. Their love was eternal, transcending time and space. In the hearts of all those who heard their story, Sombra and Twilight will always be remembered. The love between them is proof that, no matter the obstacles, true love will always find a way. And so concludes the legend of Sombra and Twilight, a love story that, despite the challenges, never faded. A story that will continue to inspire future generations to believe in the power of love.